How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I have the great pleasure to interview two fine gentlemen that, well, I'll let them explain exactly what they do with the museum. But Rand, Hoppe, and Tom Kraft, all over here to my right. And yeah, who are you two? And what is this about Jack Kirby? What is this book that I've never heard of? And how? Yeah, let's talk about who you are first and what you do.
I'm Rand Hoppe. I'm a big comics fan, sometime cartoonist, and big. Just at some point back in 2004, I had the idea that Jack Kirby needed a nonprofit to keep his name out there as as the artistic giant and literary giant that he is. And so I was working with John Morrow on his website at the time for the Kirby Collector.
Mm-hmm.
And he had contact with Lisa Kirby. So I pitched it to them and they said, okay, that sounds like a fine idea. And here we are 19 years later.
Yeah, 20 years. We have to figure out what we're going to do next year.
Yeah.
Wow, so, 20 years, huh? It's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we're a virtual nonprofit. I mean, we don't have like a gallery space that people can come and visit on Saturdays or anything like that. So, we are just kind of, doing our thing and getting the word out there and popping up in various locations and setting up at conventions and helping publishers and writers, exhibitors with Jack Kirby stuff.
Okay, so we're both of you. Now, what is it that you do for the organization, Rand?
Well, I'm the director.
Okay, the director. Yeah. And how about you, Tom? What is it that you do?
I am the president. So I'm the president of the board of directors.
How did you two meet? How did this happen? And were both of you just were you in a Jack Kirby forum and both of you were just fans? And how did this happen?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, back in 96, 97, there was a little bit of chaos in the world of Jack Kirby email mailing lists.
Okay. And
I kind of spearheaded it and created something called Kirby L, which was, I don't know. You familiar with those email lists, the discussion groups, stuff like that?
Back in the late 90s?
In the late 90s, yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
yes,
I did that. I took over. I tried to bring some order to the chaos of the Kirby stuff. And I also created an Eisner list, a Harvey Kurtzman list, a Mobius list. There was already a Alex Toth list. I took over the Kirby, and there was a lot of activity with the Kirby. He was, that was the most active group that I was, keeping watch over. And Tom joined it. So that's how we met. Yeah.
And were both of you fans of Kirby? Like big fans, or did you just at what age? When did that happen?
I was older. I was probably about 15.
Okay.
And Rand?
Well, I got hit by the Kirby lightning bolt when I was I think 13. I read an issue of Commandy at summer camp, sleepaway summer camp, and realized it was the best comic out of the 6-inch stack that I had just read because it was a rainy day.
So it became an instant fan, huh?
Yeah, so I read it and I said, this thing is great. And one of my pals in the tent was like, oh, that's Jack Kirby. He's a genius. Almost all those stories that you just read, all those, it was like the Avengers Defenders War was going on and all this other stuff. He goes, oh yeah, Jack Kirby created almost all of those. So I was like, wow, who is this guy? Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I was lucky to have that guy there, to be honest.
because there was a world before the internet where you had to find out things like that, right? You couldn't just Google
That's
somebody's name.
No.
Oh, that guy, I like that guy's art. Let's go to Google.
Yep.
No, you went to your local comic book shop and you talked to the guy behind the counter usually. Or you bought the comics at what you liked at the drugstore. Yeah, you could go just down to a drugstore and pick up a comic.
Yeah, we had these candy stores that I would ride my bike up and down the main drag in my town, and they all had different sections, selections. But the weird thing is that the guy who told me who Jack Kirby was, it was Fred Gilmore. I'm still in touch with him on Facebook, and I tried to ask him. I'm like, Fred, how did you know who Jack Kirby was? He didn't really have an answer. I guess he was just an avid comic reader and picked it up over the years,
And how about you, Tom? What was your first Jack Kirby comic?
It was a friend of mine in grammar school, and I never got into comic books because I didn't like Mickey Mouse and Daffy Duck and stuff like that.
Oh, you were one of those guys. Okay.
I just assumed that that's what all comic books were until he said, no, they're not. And he came over with a stack of Fantastic Fours. Probably like in the 60s, I think they were. And I looked through them and I just couldn't believe my eyes of the art was so powerful. And that's pretty much got me going.
So since do you remember the issue?
I don't remember the exact issues. I know they were in the 60s, and I actually eventually bought them off of him years later.
Oh, you bought the actual comics?
Yeah, and I still have them in my collection.
You mean like the 60, 61, 62 issue numbers, right? Not
like 62, 63, 64, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then later, I like that year, or I don't remember. Shortly after, my sister was working at a drugstore, and on the spinner rack was Captain America 193, and it drew me to it, but the art didn't look like Jack Kirby, especially the cover. I opened up the comic and I saw Jack Kirby, and it's like, I thought he only did the Fantastic Four.
Oh man, yeah.
So then that got me even further going and buying a lot of other stuff. So
that guy was everywhere.
Yeah.
That guy was everywhere back then. That's awesome. Okay, so fast forward some years, you guys are part of a forum, you message each other. Who came up with the idea about preserving his art in this particular format, like what you two do?
You mean like the archive that we have, or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was a suggestion that I made before I became before I was on the board of. And I collect a lot of Kirby art, and I had started collecting it when I got back into it around 1995, and I started to know all the dealers. I'd go to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and I suggested, all this great art is out there and it's available. Why don't we scan it? Because then we can have an archive and we can use it for other things in the future. So. That's how it started. That was 2006, and at San Diego Comic-Con 2006, Rand trucked the big professional scanner on the floor, and I ran around to dealers and convinced them to let us borrow their art for just a short amount of time so that they can scan it. And then it just grew and grew, and now we're at approximately 14,000 scans, 8,000 original art. And the rest are mostly photocopies of Jack's pencils. So the archive has grown and grown, and we go to collectors' houses. We still go to conventions across the United States. We've actually been to France, and and helped out different museums and galleries that were showing Jack Kirby art, and also in Switzerland.
And whenever you do this, I have to ask about this scanner, because I was in IT for decades of my life. This is in 1996, you said? Or no, 2006, San Diego Comic-Con.
2006.
Right, 2006, yeah.
That still must have been a pretty damn big, heavy scanner to haul around.
It's actually the same size scanner that we have now. It was a Epson, I think it's Expression 10,000 XL. and that had just came out in 2006, and it had like it has an LED bulb, and the quality is just incredible. Fast forward to today, they just came out with the 13,000, and I have the one before. I have a 12,000, and and if I compare the scans to 2006, they're pretty much the same. So technology it was so advanced back then. And then eventually, we found a different software to scan with that allows us to scan in. You scan generally 1200 DPI, 600 for the back, so that that's museum standard. But we scan in RAW format starting 2012 when it was available, and RAW format just preserves the actual digital information from the chip in the scanner, and then think of it like an old school negative that you make a print from. You can never destroy the negative. So everything's scanned super high res, perfect, digital format that can be processed any way you want in the future as technology changes.
Okay. So tell us about this project that you both are a big part of. What is the Sky Masters of the Space Force? This is something I've never heard of. And what year, what era of Kirby are we talking about here?
So it's a newspaper comic strip from the late 1950s.
Okay, so we're talking pre-Marvel Silver Age, right? Okay.
Pre-Marvel, pre-Fantastic Four. It is he was selling some stuff to Stanley at the time, but not a lot. The comic book business was very, very tough in the 50s. They had the censorship commission in the Senate that caused all kinds of concerns about juvenile delinquency. The distribution network pretty much fell apart. So a lot of comic book people just were out of work and had to find something else to do. Jack was a partner with Joe Simon, and eventually, they were together for a while, but eventually the partnership broke up, and Jack ended up at DC Comics, or National as it was called at the time. Yeah. And was working on Challengers of the Unknown, and which was by all I don't know, everybody's looking at it these days and going, wait a minute, you look at Showcase, the Showcase issues back then, it's like, yeah, Flash was in number 4, but then there were 2 Challengers issues, then a break, then 2 more Challengers issues, then a Flash, then Challengers got their own book. It seemed like Challengers was much more successful than Flash at the time. And that, so basically what happened, that Sputnik happened. The Soviet Union put up Sputnik, and there was a guy, Harry Elmlark, who was a newspaper strip guy. Mm-hmm. I posit that he was looking at the newsstand, going, "What's going on with comics and space?" and saw perhaps something from Mystery in Space that DC had was publishing at the time. Mm-hmm. And he kind of just walked in cold into the DC offices and said, "I'm Harry Elmlark from a newspaper syndicate. You guys help me make a strip." That's kind of in response to Sputnik, a little more hard science, so not like Bug-Eyed Monsters and Flash Gordon, space opera stuff. Whatever, it all churned through, and it ended up that there was a newspaper strip that Kirby got Wallace Wood to ink, which was a coup because Wood really inked space really well. He had done the Spirit in Space for Will Eisner in the early 50s, and had been doing some spacey things for EC. In addition to being the star of Mad Comics and Mad Magazine, but so he got Wood to do the inking, and eventually the whole business deal just kind of fell apart. The editor at DC who helped them get the deal kept asking for more money. Jack said, what we gave you was a gratuity, and you're not going to have a percentage of this thing, for, the length of the project. And he basically got sued by the editor at DC, Jack Schiff, and basically ended up getting blackballed from National. And that's kind of why he ended up at Marvel. Does that answer the question you asked, or did I just tell it long story?
No. I'm just trying to think, because without that, this is crazy. We may not, or okay. I'm not gonna say the Marvel Silver Age would not have happened, but I can sure as hell guarantee it wouldn't have been the same.
No,
if that series of events did not take place.
Two big events caused the Marvel universe to happen the way it did. I think one was the, and of course I'm having a brain moment. Who was the artist that was really in with Stan Lee in the 50s?
I forgot his name too.
Yeah, senior moment. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't know.
But he was really in working with Stan a lot, and was very doing a lot of work with Stan, and he had an unfortunate railroad accident in suburban New Jersey.
Oh, the guy that did the Black Knight.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mealy, something.
Meneely, Joe Meneely.
Yes.
It happened.
We got it together.
We got it.
One name together. Yeah, that guy was
sorry,
amazing.
guys. But yeah, Joe Meneely unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
That left, and Stan left Atlas in a bad way. And then Jack Schiff sued Jack Kirby, and basically Jack was out of National. If those two things hadn't happened, I don't think we would have Fantastic Four #1, or probably even Spider-Man, or any of that stuff.
It would have looked a lot different for sure, and it might have been a while before getting started on things.
Yeah.
Definitely,
that's
definitely
crazy
would have been longer. Because Jack was instrumental in promoting the idea of doing superheroes. If he wasn't there to promote that, they might not have. They probably would have got in at the tail end after DC or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. So that's so Sky Masters of the Space Force. Sky Masters is the guy's name, by the way.
Okay.
It is not a description of these people. They are not the masters of the sky.
So much like Luke Skywalker. They just happen to have really cool names.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So it's a really beautiful strip, particularly when it's inked by Wood.
That's the other question I was going to ask. What role did Wally play in all that?
Well, he inked. He did his look at these. I'm assuming this is a Wood panel above me, but
it is a Wood.
Look at this fantastic machinery and stuff. He was just a master at doing cool sci-fi stuff, and he also did the logo. So that artwork that's your background,
yes,
is inked by Wood, and that Sky Masters of the Space Force, that's Wood's lettering as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like Kirby really wanted him, and it was gonna make the strip to have Wood doing the inking.
Okay, so tell me about how long it went then. The series.
The dailies, I think, went for 3 years or 2.5 years.
Since 61, I think.
Yeah.
58
to 61, something like that.
Yep.
And then the Sundays went a little bit 1 week, 2 weeks longer than a year.
Okay.
So less time.
Yeah. Because as soon as the judge ruled against Kirby in that lawsuit, he stopped pretty much working on the Sunday strips.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. And all of it has this ever been collected? Has it seen the light of day outside of the time that it was published?
Well, it took a really long time. I mean, there were collections. There was one I believe in '91 that was called The Complete Sky Masters from Pure Imagination.
Okay.
But it was not complete.
Yeah, that's why you did the air quotes.
I did it, didn't I?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
So, yeah, it was not complete, and basically it was the last strip, the last Sunday. Took a while for it to be found, for a good reproducible copy of it to be found. Ferran Delgado, who's a comic book letterer and a designer. This was his dream project to pull all these together. So he spent so many years trying to find. He lives in Spain, and he just worked the internet and was able to finally get it all and pull it all together and make a book. He had done two volumes of the daily strips in Spain, in Spanish. And some of the strips were based on what was in the Pure Imagination book from '91. But he decided when he was going to do the Sundays that he was going to do the best that he could. And he had a few breaks. Like he was on eBay and he saw somebody was offering a Sky Masters color guide, which was
like somebody actually owned that.
Yeah, there's a punchline at the end, but so it was like here's a photo stat with Dr. Martin watercolor dyes on it, being sold by Jeremy Kirby, Jack's grandson.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so Ferran is like writing, buys it or whatever, and then builds a relationship with Jeremy, and Jeremy's like, oh, I have this and I have that and I have this and I have and so yeah, so he was able to pull it all together, and the book is just it's a beautiful reproduction of these strips. Ferran is just a great reconstructor, restorer, remasterer. He made all the great looking choices to not make it too modern and to keep it kind of looking like what Jack did, in the late '50s. And he published it five years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And also you might want to add that there's some panels that were never published, and in the book we have there is additional panels that are kind of cool to see.
How did those come about?
Well, some of them were with Jeremy. Some of them were with the Greg Theakston, who had put out the '91 collection, and we were able to scan them. So the missing panels are kind of a function of the fact that Sunday strips are drawn pretty much or produced at what they would call a half page, but then they also have to be like a horizontal 3-tier set of panels, but then they have to be able to be manipulated for newspaper sections to be only 2 tiers and be a quarter of a page or a third of a page, or they want to be like a tabloid, like a vertically
Full
oriented
page
thing.
Yeah.
So there's lots of manipulation of the panels, and so they would create panels that they knew would be cut for some newspapers. So it was always a challenge to get the color guide and get a good reproduction of it from a newspaper and kind of pull it together and make something beautiful. And again, Ferran spent a lot of time making that happen.
Wow. This is
Yeah.
this is really cool how it all kind of came together. So the
Yeah.
book that you guys are putting out there, tell me about like the specifics that make this one, like how big it's gonna, how many pages we're talking about, and how many pieces, like how many pieces or that are just specifically for this book that was found.
So when he published it 5 years ago, it was 128 pages,
Mm-hmm.
and in English, and it was I don't remember what the size was. I'm looking at it. I've got it sitting right here. Where's my ruler?
It's roughly 9 by 12. A
9
little
by
bit
12.
bigger. 9.5 by 12 and a half.
That's the one that was
That's
published.
the original size.
Okay,
The original size.
But we when we worked out the arrangement with Ferran, for us to have the English language rights to his work after his first edition,
Mhm.
we were like, and then the Zoop guys were like, kept talking to me at conventions, like, we got to do something. Come on, guys. So we, it merged together. Was like, okay, let's do a second edition of this book that we have the rights to, and what can we do with it? And we were looking at sizes, right, Tom? Like standard sizes.
Yeah. So it ended up being a B4. I think it's an Asian size, and it's 10 by 14 now. So we've increased it by pretty much a little bit more than a half an inch on both sides, width and height, which gave us an opportunity to enlarge some of the art. So you get bigger art. And also there's some text essays, including the whole Schiff lawsuit and so forth. And also there's an essay on how Ferran remastered everything. So those are now at slightly bigger fonts and more space, because originally it was really small type and everything. So smaller type.
So, but what we're doing with the second edition is that we're we're adding 16 pages more.
Yep.
I think
16 more pages to the book.
16 more pages.
144.
Yeah. So there's more original art and more color guides, guaranteed.
We're still working out the details now. That
still working out the details of the other editions, and but I can tell you that yes, there will be more original art and more color guides, and the color guides are fun. Oh, and I didn't really say the color guides are some of the rare examples of confirmed Kirby color. Like Kirby people are like, Jack had a wild color sense. He would use pinks and
next to blues and
next to blues. It was, he was very dynamic. We saw look at this shirt Tom is wearing. The color is just crazy. Really cool and fun. And we're always like, well, it was particularly with the Joe Simon stuff from the the 40s and 50s, where it's like, did Jack color that? I mean, we all like to think that he did, but he may not have, but because of the color choices. But we've seen some fun color choices from Joe Simon as well. But the point is, we know that this is Kirby color, so that's really a cool thing, that it is confirmed Kirby color.
That's really cool.
Hey, and he actually used the color guides to remaster the colors from the newsprint colors. So they're much more vibrant. They're much more. They look great. They're
and sometimes you would create these color guides, right? So you have a stat. You say, what am I going to do? Put pink on this guy's head and red over here and blue over here, just to use the example. Green in the background, red and blue on the machines. And then sometimes, if you really needed to, you as somebody doing a color guide, you would put the color codes in, right? Because there were these specific codes that they would use, like Y5, which would be 5 something, like the most yellow you could put in, and then C, or it would be the most cyan you could put in, and the way colors mixed and make the dots. So the colorist, the color guide artist would put those codes in, and then they would hand it off to engravers.
Yeah,
engravers, strippers.
Yeah.
Sometimes the engravers, strippers weren't they weren't true to the guide.
They weren't faithful, that's for sure.
Yeah. So Ferran actually took the color guides and made that were available, and made any strip that he had the color guide for, made it have more fidelity to Kirby's intent.
So I have to ask this question, and I don't know who gets to make this decision then. When it comes to printing this book, like, what's the paper stock that you guys are going to be using for this book? Is that something that you both decide on, or like to
I
showcase
imagine
the
so.
art?
We haven't gotten there yet, but so the way Zoop works, we do this fundraising, this campaign, and then once it's over with, then we actually have to like make the book and make all the. We have an idea of cost and number of issues, and we may or may not have a decision on the paper. But one of the most important things we're stressing is the binding, because the binding is so important, and a lot of the art goes very close to the spine. So we're hoping that the binding will look really good, and the reproduction will look as good as or better than the original one.
So tell me about this. What are you pushing for the binding? What is it that you're trying to get?
There's different types of binding, and what we're trying to get is something called, what is that called? Flat
binding.
What is flat binding?
I thought it was just called flat binding, or sure flat, or
oh no, lay flat. It's lay flat.
Lay flat.
Yes, yeah. So what that is it's kind of like it's bound, but the pages are glued in the center, and usually they're sometimes stitched, so that when you open the book, it lays flat instead of other books where you can get that curve. So it's better to be flat than for this type of art, especially the size of a book as well.
Okay, I got you. That's really interesting. Like, so the book, once it gets funded, then the decisions are made about the actual aesthetics of it, and like the paper stock, for example.
Kind of. We have a very good. I'm sure that Zoop has an idea of a standard paper stock, because they did give us estimates and cost, so they must have something, because paper costs money. So
yeah, it does, and it's gone up. It's gone up quite significantly.
Yes,
I know a lot of collectors like it to feel or look as close to when it originally came out, and it's one of those things that very divisive, right? Like glossy stock, and then matte paper, and like what kind of paper stock do you use?
Yeah,
and then people are like, "Oh, this is too glossy. It's too modern."
Yeah,
this particular.
if that's what you're referring to, then definitely the original had more of a matte finish to it. It wasn't uncoated, but it was matte, and that would be definitely the same for this.
Right.
We don't want to have glossy paper, that's for sure. That'd be disgusting.
It would be disgusting. Yeah,
it would be.
You sound like
it's like when you get those Marvel books, the omnibuses, and they reprinted.
I'm very familiar with those. Yeah,
I was going to say
all of those things in the back of you. Sometimes they print them on glossy paper. The ones that I like the most is the ones that they did on uncoated paper.
Oh, so you're a fan of that? Like, you like it to look as close as possible to.
I just don't like it glaring in my face. I don't like the glossy.
I think for me, it's always been a case by case. Like, I have Sin City, the library editions, and the Sin City, the big damn Sin City. This one has the glossy paper stock, and that one has the matte paper. And when I did my video, people were just upset. They were like, "How is on the library?" They were like, "Why are they printing it on matte paper? That's such a cheap way to go." And I had to explain
subjective,
that. Well, absolutely, it is. And I think we've gotten accustomed to the idea that glossy always means the high end, like the top of the top of the food chain when it comes to paper stock. But it really is case by case. And
so that's why I like matte paper. It has the feeling, has some feel to the paper, but it's it's not semi-gloss. It's matte, so it looks good, and plus you get a good dot with it. It doesn't. It's not like uncoated paper where the dots spread out and it looks kind of flat and muted. It'll look really nice.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you guys been working with Zoop on this?
We started about 3 months ago.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
3 months. Yeah.
Okay.
We saw them. We saw them at San Diego Comic-Con. We attended one of their panels, and then we had further conversations. And then somebody from IDW also discussed it with us, with me and Rand, and eventually
was it Scott?
We made it happen. Scott
Yeah.
Dumbier, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy. He would have loved.
He's the one that. I think he's worked with them before, and he's the one that suggested them. But then in the meantime, Rand had already had conversations with him, so the stars aligned and it happened. And this is really the first time we're publishing something, so it's under the Kirby Museum Press, which is the first, and we hope in the future to be doing more publication.
Okay, that's awesome. I love hearing that. So being that you guys have curated this museum, are you always finding additional pieces? Like somebody popping up left and right? Or
yes, I just this morning I just got back from Florida. There was an original art expo down in Orlando, and I scanned a bunch of things. And I also went to a collector's house with the scan. I carried the scanner down there, and one of the highlights is the cover to Fantastic Four number 74. So it's beautiful in person, and it's huge. And we scanned that at super high res digital to preserve it digitally.
That's so cool. That's awesome. So these people hear about you, and they or you just randomly call? Like,
they hear about us. I reach out. I find out who they are sometimes through other people, and then I contact them, and we go. I've been, and Rand has too, to many collectors' houses, and just word of mouth. We know somebody has something because somebody told us, and who has something, and then we contact them, and we literally go to their place and scan. So we've been scanning so many things that it's really hard to get a lot of new things. We always get some things, and there's always something that pops up at a convention with an art dealer, like yesterday with me. But we're finding more and more that there's less of that because the art has been scanned, and it's popped between different dealers, so we know all that stuff. So collectors are our key resource for new stuff. For instance, I was down in Brooklyn, and this person loves Thor and had incredible amount of Thor, like 50, 60 pages of Journey into Mystery and Thor and everything. That's the only thing he collects. So
original pages. That's crazy.
Yeah. So for 2 days, I sat in their kitchen table and scanned away.
Yeah.
So collectors are great, and a lot of collectors really, really want. They may not. And the stuff is so valuable, they don't want it to leave the house. So, but they do really want to have something scanned for the legacy of Jack Kirby, and they want their stuff preserved digitally. So they sometimes will actually seek us out, instead of us seeking them out.
Oh, that's awesome. Ever find a piece that you're jealous of, that you're like, oh,
this cover to FF74 was pretty good. They also had a dealer had the splash page to New Gods number 6 with the glory boat at the end when Orion and Light Ray are on top of a missile, flying at you. It's a beautiful piece. So I got to scan that as well. So those are 2 good pieces I wouldn't mind having.
So have you guys worked with Scott then with the IDW artist editions?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So in the past, when they had new editions that are Kirby related, we'll discuss what we have in our archive, and we'll provide scans to them. And Scott is great for exchanging with scans that they have. So the
Yeah.
books, we have the scans from the books as well to add to our archive.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's got some good stuff. He's got some good
He's
stuff.
all over the place. He's doing like I think he's doing 4 books. I'm actually working with him on an Eternals book right now, and he's so busy. It's just incredible. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how he does so many. I interviewed him probably about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about the different. Like he's constantly doing projects, and because somebody had asked in the live stream, like, "Hey, what's going on with this project?" And he was like, "Well, no update on that because he had moved on to like 4 other projects he wanted to work on now," which has to happen from time to time, right? Especially if it's like one of your favorites. You're like, "Oh, I have a chance to scan all these. Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
And how many pieces would you guys say in the Jack Kirby Museum, like all together, that you guys have put together?
Digital?
Sure. Yeah.
Like 14,000, and about 12, between 10 and 12 terabytes of data.
Is it all on one thumb drive that you carry around your neck?
Thumb drive of terabytes
in my head.
No, we keep. I have a version of it on my hard drives at my house. I have we have 2 versions in the cloud, and Rand has a version too in Hoboken. So we make sure that we're not going to lose any data. That's for sure. That'd be horrible.
And just to say that, you know, the 14,000 is a total, right, Tom, of the original art and the pencil art photocopies
and comic strips and animation and all the other and photos, photography. We recently, the family has been very good to us, and we visit the family and archive any art that they have, but we also archive all the photography that they've had in their like books
photo
and stuff
albums,
like that they have.
Photo albums,
scrapbooks.
So this right now, it looks like the book itself is $55. That's the hardcover. But there's other formats. You can get a digital copy. There's a retailer bundle. So any retailers watching,
sure,
you can get a bundle of 3 or more copies. And you also have, I saw here. Here we go. A year's membership to the Kirby Museum. Tell me about that. I'm curious. What does that give you?
Well, the membership is more just a symbol of supporting us. We don't have a museum that we can offer, you know, discounted tickets or free admission to in a way, or a gallery.
Well, yeah. My question is like, how does one see the digital files that you guys have collected?
So for that, I think somebody mentioned that in the chat. We are in the process of fundraising for a collections website. Everything is on a relational database. So we have all the stuff we scan, and plus we're doing a catalog of all his published work and unpublished work.
Okay.
So every single page that he's ever produced. So I don't know what the URL is. Brand might know, but we're trying to raise $20,000 in order to get developers to help us. The design of it has been started, but we need developers, and it's very expensive, as you might know, being in IT, how expensive it is to program something of this size. And also the cost of hosting it and all that. So it's going to be a constant expense. So we need to fundraise for that.
I remember how much our programmers. I mean, there is a reason why programmers get paid good money, because it's not easy. It's not easy. It's constant task. Okay, that's what I was wondering, is if is there any way to see any of this stuff that's digital? But that's great that you guys have it and are working on something like that.
Well, you can see it in the artist editions that everybody enjoys.
Yeah,
and we're also we've done once a year. We try to do it once a year, but we usually don't make it. We have pop-ups in Manhattan, and it's thematic. And then we print a lot of the art as G-clays, so you can see it. And it's also a mix of original art too that we get from other collectors that loan their art. And I don't know if we want to talk about LA, Rand.
Not yet.
No, not yet. Okay. There's other plans for future things.
Exciting things are happening this year. This book is one of them, and there's more. Stay
so
tuned.
Much more.
Awesome. So you guys have already ideas after this. Yeah. So we got a lot of comments here in the chat. And do you mind if I share this URL?
Which one?
Yeah, I have a typo in my URL that I just shared with you.
Oh yes, I see it. Yeah.
Okay. So if you would fix that, and then it'll be fine. I was just trying to retype it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I know the problem.
Yeah, just that thing. I believe that will. Yeah. I think that's our collections campaign. If people would,
right, and we should also put up the link to Zoop if you don't have it, so that they could, if they're interested in the book.
I have. I've shared a link in the comment section, and it's also in the description of the video. But this is the link for the donating to the Kirby Museum.
Yeah.
Very important. I think it's great that you guys are doing this. And how many people are in this organization? Is it just you do? Is it
no?
Okay,
4 of us. Currently, there's 4.
We have four of us on the board of trustees, as it were. We have a few volunteers as well that help us out at shows and our exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have about 5 people on our board of advisors, including John Morrow from the Kirby Collector. I think Lisa Kirby's on it. Art dealer that's helped us a lot, Bashar Malouf, and Jeremy Kirby, and I think Tracy Kirby's on there as well. So that's the way we expand the board a little bit to get advisors. I think Mark Evander too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious as to who all is part of this. This is really cool. And when can people expect the book? I see that it looks like it's funded, but let's say everything, knock on wood, goes smooth. No delays with paper stock or shipping from overseas. When is the anticipated date for this to be released?
I think it's going to arrive in June.
Oh, June of this year. This year, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We're hoping before San Diego, so we can.
We're hoping before.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And will this, outside of the Zoop, will this later on be available through Diamond or PRH, just for viewers that are overseas? That
I think that we will be selling it ourselves.
Okay.
We'll end up with a whole bunch of cartons of the book, and we'll be offering it as best we can. I mean, if it's just on our website or at conventions, folks who are overseas, it would be there would be some overseas. We sell things overseas. It's just very expensive to ship, but we'll do it.
That it is. Okay. And let me just highlight the chat here. Wally Wood is an almost forgotten and underappreciated creator. He drew early Daredevil.
Daredevil. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Made the red costume.
That's right. He drew that fight against Namor.
Yeah.
And let's see here. So Johnny's saying that a friend has the Sky Masters collected editions paperback. Got to have it for a while. Check out all the artwork. I believe we'll also finally get Jack's 10 issues in 2001 reprinted. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Yeah,
there is a paperback. There are a number of editions that take care of the daily strip. And there was that one collected paper. There was that one blue paperback that had a lot of the Sundays in it. I don't know if they were all color. I think some of them were in color, and they were not. as my air quotes indicated
Please.
earlier, I think there was one Sunday missing from that book. So if you're gonna enjoy the Sunday Kirby Wood color stuff, this is the book to get.
Oh, okay. Before we get going, I do have to ask this question. I forgot because I didn't get to ask Scott. Has there ever been anybody that you knew that has turned down your scanning? That's like, no, this piece is too important to me. I don't even want anybody touching it or scanning it.
There are
no names, of course.
Yeah, there are collectors that it's very rare, but we also have a policy when we scan something. Some people don't want us to ever use it or put it on the web or on the site. They want to be anonymous, and we have when we catalog their art, we have a system that says don't post, don't show. And
okay,
that usually gets around the fact that somebody may not want us to scan something, because a lot of people may not want it public. They may not want it seen, but they still want to have it archived. So,
right.
Okay.
You turned black.
It's my camera. Should have bought
I can't think of anybody. There are some people that just, I really, it's very rare if somebody doesn't want us to do it at all.
Well, I didn't know, I kind of figured with original art, sometimes people are like,
well, our problem is when they don't want us to do it, it's usually because they have it in a frame and they don't want to take it out of a frame.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Some people are good and they'll remove it from the frame. We have one collector that had about 10 or 15 pieces on the wall, and ran in him, opened up the frames, grabbed the art, assembly line. I scanned it, gave it back to them. They put it back together again.
Okay. I can imagine that being a lot of trouble too. Like, we gotta get this down from the wall. Gotta get it out of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's one of the pieces of original art in the new edition is going to be from somebody who had the Sunday art, and then Ferran was in contact with them and asked, "Can you take it out?" And he goes, "You know what? I've been wanting to reframe it." So, we lucked out. It's like
you got there at the right time.
You got him at the right time. He's like, "Yeah, I'll help those guys out. I want to remat it and reframe it." So, yeah, it's a perfect opportunity. So that's great.
Awesome. Well, at this moment, I just want to thank both of you guys for joining me.
Sure.
Thank you.
And talking about this project, and looks like it's going to be very successful. And I hope to see more of this stuff. Like I never heard of this until Jordan had emailed me, and I was like, I had to read about it, and I thought, oh yeah, absolutely, Wally Wood and Jack the King, this is great.
Right.
Like stuff. I'm sure there's so much out there that I don't know about that exists that he did. And I'm sure both of you guys probably have a lot of it too. Somewhere out there digitally. Yeah. So the project, or let me see, this ends in 10 more days. And again, I've left the link in the description of the video, and the link is right here. If you want to click on it and go and support this crowdfunded project, or if you want to go and donate to the Jack Kirby Museum,
our collections campaign,
I'll put that link in the description of the video.
Fantastic. Yeah, cool.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being here. Rand, Tom, I'm sure I'll run into you at some convention scanning.
Yes, I hope so.
I'll look for you and Scott to be hauling some scanners around at every convention.
That's right, buddy.
And see who's winning this competition. Maybe you guys should do that. Like, do a little quick competition. Who's the faster scanner?
But we actually advised Scott on scanning and everything at the beginning, and let him know about a software that we're using that speeds it up. So he's been using that for years now.
Well, that's mighty kind of you guys. That's awesome. I'm sure
Hey, we share. We're happy to share.
I'm sure he appreciates it. And scanners have come a long freaking way. That's for sure. Since the
he uses the same scanners that we use.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Same
why
model.
it sounded familiar. Yeah.
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 Well, thank you guys again for joining me, and thank you everybody for watching. Smash
Thanks
that
everybody
on the way out.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
Absolutely, and
All
check
right.
out the project, everybody.
Okay.